So that is Natalie, my wife.
Hello, Natalie.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
So I think we read the questions before, like what you want to talk about. And maybe Natalie, I will talk from time to time only, right? And then Natalie can explain a little better the whole social media thing she works on.
Modern men, that's your question.
No. So I mean, okay, let me start then. Yeah. So before we come to Tribela, like that social media network, what Natalie wants to develop, I think we talked about it before also. This social media is basically good and bad. So I think on the one hand, you get through social media a lot of contacts, a lot of possibilities to connect to people, to talk to people, like what we're doing here right now. Without social media, we would never had any contact. So I think that is definitely the good thing in social media. So you also can find maybe people you lost out of your past and you want to re-find them and have discussions with them or meet them or whatsoever. On the other hand, of course, social media turned so big that now I think a lot of people are addicted to social media, and they're only on their phone, they're only on social media. And so the real life interactions are not there anymore. It's like a replacement world for a lot of people who are just not living in the real world anymore. And then they have actually problems in the real world. They have big problems to do sports, to go outdoor, to meet people in real. I think that is the curse of social media, the negative situation of social media. And then you have, of course, also on social media, on the one hand, I think you get a lot of news in social media, what the national media or the media, wherever country it is not showing, is not presenting. So you have a kind of the other side of informations about politics comes through social media out, But of course, then you have also a lot of bullshit on social media, where stuff is on social media where you have just you say this guy is insane, or stuff like this, where you feel like that is definitely not okay that people do this. And last for me now, it's a lot of things are on social media what young children or younger kids, and that is where Natalie comes in, should not watch. You should not see, if you're 10 years old, porn movies. You should not see real violence where people getting killed in reality and stuff like this, because especially children and young children, I think, can get a lot of mentally damage based on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should control what we're watching, what our kids are watching on the social networks. But it is vital and crucial, right, in interpersonal communication in our modern world. The question is about messengers, that they're getting increasingly popular. And what about social networks? They're slipping into obscurity, or they do have a future?
I think that social media in itself has a future. I think that the way that the primary platforms that we're using, like Meta platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, these platforms are hyper curated to create us to be addicted. They've changed the way we connect, and it's no longer about connection. And I think that's where the messaging apps become more popular, because you can really connect with somebody one-on-one. You go onto the social media and it's not necessarily about socializing anymore. It's more about attention at all cost. That's the metric that the platform's using, but now it's the metric that the users are doing. Like if you go onto an Instagram, it's all becoming clickbait. It's all about look at me. It's no longer connecting. So I think the design of the current larger platforms, I think, is going to go away, because I think people are getting really sick of how unauthentic the experience is and how manipulated the experience is. So I think that that's where I'm really passionate, is that I think that connecting humans is amazing, like what we're doing. I even met Uwe through online, you know, I think that is really beautiful. But when you add design features that manipulate that experience for profit and for attention at all costs, keeping us on these apps in ways that are not good for us, showing us content that's not good for us, then the experience is no longer connecting. The experience is manipulated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I would add one thing to it. Like, I agree that 50 to 60% of the like Instagram users and TikTok users, they just want to present themselves. They don't want actually content. They just want to say, look how cool I am, how I'm looking, how I'm, you know, like stuff like this. This is my new handbag. This is my new car. So they are only there to brag about what they have and how they live, and everything looks so great. And people feel jealous. You know, people feel like, I want that too. And I want this, and I want to live in Dubai like everybody else, you know, like stuff like this. And I think that is, of course, then very tough for example, parents. And, you know, like when you like, because the children today, they demanding too much from the beginning on. They see all that stuff on social media and they want the messy soccer shoes. Oh, they cost $300. Doesn't matter. I need the messy soccer shoes and not like any soccer shoe for $80. So, and I think that is a big problem. It's like this commercializing of the internet.
I think they're trying to maybe express themselves, maybe in some way find themselves. Actually, there's a lot of good stuff on the Instagram and other platforms. I mean, people like psychologists on there, right? Tutors and all that kind of. So they're bringing some useful content. I think that's a good point about networks.
No, that's I agree. Without the internet, also, look, when you have something, let's say you feel sick, you can Google it, you can find out right away what it is. You find tutor, as you said, there are so many also scientists everywhere where you can Google like, oh, I have a pain in my ear, and you find 100 answers. So yes, I agree. It's like we cannot rewind the time. You know, I think it will not go away. And where everybody will have still phones and be social connected. That is 100%. The question is only what content should be in a way censored, and also what age groups getting in a way access to what content, you know. And that is right now, I think it's too unlimited. It's too easy for 10 years old boys and whatever watching porn movies. It's too easy to access stuff like this, and it should be harder regulated.
Yeah, and I think also everyone's experience is different, because the way the algorithms are working, it's really based on your preferences and then hyper curating it also based on your vulnerabilities. So a lot of the research that I was looking into is the primary age group of 13 to 18, which we're seeing the most harms globally, but particularly in North America and Europe. I'm not sure how it is where you're from, but we were seeing a lot of harms with self-harming content being fed to a lot of the younger audience through their algorithms and through the For You feed. We were seeing sextortion on the rise through Instagram and Snapchat. In Canada, there was over 4,000 young adults that were sextorted in 1 year. So we're seeing a lot of problematic behavior, and that's exactly why I wanted to really look into this, because there is so much good on social media. And that's the thing, is you can find out, like you said, there's all these accounts, these doctors and therapists and wellness, and you can find out, so fashion, you name it, you can see it on social media. But you know, it's problematic when you're stuck into an echo chamber and you're only seeing one point of view of the world, which we're seeing a lot politically, but also in these younger adults that are getting fed this self-harming content. So the challenge is, you know, identifying these features that can create some of these harms or amplify them, that we're seeing a lot of this happen. And how can we moderate a platform that we're not seeing things like live streaming of people being harmed on social media networks? So yeah, I agree with you. There is so much good. And how do we reduce the bad?
And could you tell us more about concept of your project, the new social network?
Yeah, so the platform's called Tribela. And over the last year and a half, what I've been doing is researching the harms that we're seeing the most on social media, and then correlating it with a design feature that either is amplifying the harm or creating the harm, and looking at how can we design differently. So for instance, onboarding. How can we onboard in a more effective way so we reduce bots, anonymous accounts, fake accounts, which we're seeing causing a lot of the harms? How can we change the algorithm? We're seeing a lot of these For You feeds, the echo chambers. We're seeing people being just fed hyper curated feeds, and it's polarizing our societies. How do we create a more holistic algorithm? So the primary focus of my platform is to give users complete control, that they're in control of their experience. So they basically are creating their own experience by customizing their own algorithm that they can change constantly. And it's more of a timeline than a suggested feed that we're seeing right now, where maybe 2% of the content is being shown to a wide audience. It's more of a timeline based on your connections with your friends, your family, your community. So there's a lot of features within the site that are more about consciously connecting with one another and less about the show.
Yeah, and I think to add that, or to explain it for people that have like no clue, is basically when you're on Facebook or wherever, they feed you what they want, right? So whatever, like they pushing products forward, they do advertising saying you can pay, and then they move it forward. And I think at Tribela, the strong thing is that you pick, if you want advertising for cars, you get only advertising for cars, right? Or if you ever want to watch animal videos, how dogs playing, whatever, but it's your decision and you have to click it on. And it's not like what's happening on TikTok also is this kind of like you watch 5 videos of animals playing, and then you get only like for weeks you get videos from animals, you know, like where you think like why I'm not getting, well, you know, like why I'm getting all that stuff now. And that is the thing, and that is the problem, that it's like, I think it's your data, what they make money with. So at least you should be able to pick what kind of advertising or what kind of messaging I want and I like. You know, I don't want to get videos I don't want to see. You see that when you Google something, whatever you Google, 5 minutes later, whatever site you're on comes advertising. You know, you Google soccer shoes, and then, oh, by accident, even Facebook knows it. Then on Facebook, you have like soccer shoes popping up. You know, that is this kind of, they basically searching automatically the whole internet and everything, and putting up this advertising only because you Googled, I have a grass allergy, and then boom, you get bombarded with allergy pills or nose sprays and stuff. And I think the right of a citizen, or the people's right, is to determine, do I want this or do I not want this? And if I want this, then only the subject matters I'm interested in, you know?
And
yeah.
I think that that's a good point to bring up, is the data is a big part of this. A lot of people, they look at data and they look at, oh, you know, it's okay if they know a little bit about me, but they don't realize how sophisticated the collection of your data is. And one of the biggest ways is just your likes. You know, every single like that you have and your networks like are all becoming part of your behaviors, and they track your behaviors, and they have a profile of your behaviors. And through that, they're able to really manipulate how they're serving you content to keep you on the site the longest. And we're seeing this a lot with also really radical content, or also emotionally charged content, which could be angry or could be, you know, controversial, because that's keeping somebody engaged. They want to see how people have just reacted to their post, and this is coming up a lot. But overall, the way that your data is tracked, it's not just on, say, a Meta, it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be on your Instagram, but then they have sites that they're affiliated with, and all your likes on those platforms also get tracked. So you really get, they discovered that just through the likes, they can make a really accurate profile of your entire behavior profile. And through that, they can really customize, and the algorithm doesn't have a moral compass. It's really based on who you are, what are your vulnerabilities, and how can we keep you on the longest.
Yeah, and I mean, the big danger is, you know, take Israel, Gaza, they're fighting, right? So let's say you get only videos and only fed how many people in Gaza are dead. You know, let's say you get only this. You never see that the Hamas went to Israel and kidnapped people or killed people. You know, you never see that. And then you see only the Israelis bombed this, 10 children dead today, 20. So of course, you hate Israel. You know, so because you get the hundreds of thousands of videos where poor kids are dead and whatever. Or the other way around, you get only how Hamas killed the Israelis and, you know, and took hostages and treat the hostages like shit and, you know, all this stuff. Then you think the Palestinian people are all Hamas, they're all terrorists, and it's better to just throw a nuclear bomb into Gaza and they're all dead. So, but that radicalizes opinions because they have like not a fair information feeding anymore, right? So they're not getting both sides of a story. And I think that is a huge problem right now worldwide in all aspects of politics. It's like the one side looks only like this specific side, and the other side looks only the other side, and then we're never coming to terms. You know, I think for one of the thing I did with all my films is I want to show always that there are always two sides to everything. I think that is very, very important to not like be total one-sided looking into a subject matter.
And speaking about privacy and security of users, of user data, how is it going to be a respect on your social network?
Yeah, absolutely. We're right now, I'm based in Germany and Canada, but the Tribela is based in Germany, and we have very sophisticated rules around data collection. And so one of the biggest ways of this is to have complete transparency in a very clear way, how the data is collected, and to do best practices on that. And absolutely, the fact that the user has control over this data, where it's going, we will not be tracking it on behaviors such as the sites that I described, where that's not part of our business model and that's not part of the site. We really want to turn that completely into the hand of the users, especially when we're looking at the younger users, that it is ever more important that their data is protected.
And also think about schools, for example, they could use Tribela as a social media app because when you have kids communicating, right? So at least they know the identity is true. There are no like Nigerian scammers in the other line and acting like they are your teacher. You know, like you, because of, I think because of the real onboarding with camera and everything that you know, this person is real. There is not like on Facebook are 250 million fake identities where nobody, you know, like 1/4 is basically not the person they say, or even robots and doing robot calls the whole time, or posting stuff only to make money, you know, like, and that is the thing. I think it's important, especially for let's say from 7 years old to 20 years old, that they're getting more protected and that we get them off this kind of social media sites where they get abused. And
I think when it comes to data, a lot of people think, oh, they take my data and they sell it. But it's way more complicated than that. They're taking your data and they're manipulating you with it. And that's where I think it becomes extremely problematic, because you don't really know how you're being manipulated. And it sounds very conspiracy theory, but it's the truth and it's what's happening. And I think that it's time for that kind of ability for social media networks to operate like that needs to stop. And that's really where I wanted to create Tribela is, you know, a lot of these platforms say, oh, it's free speech, that's why we allow everything on it. But is it really a democracy? Is it really free speech when you're getting put into these echo chambers, when you're getting manipulated in your feed? And it's so subtle at some points that you're not aware that it's an outside source creating these thought patterns. You think you're naturally coming to these conclusions. But then when you really dissect your experience, you realize you're being fed content that's creating a narrative. And that's where your data becomes extremely important to protect.
And so young generation and kids are your primary audience?
I would like to eventually have a platform that is for everyone. Right now, I'm focusing on 13 to 18 because they're some of the biggest harms. And I feel like at that point, when you're just getting your phone and you're just getting connected with your friends, that's when their experience needs to be a little bit more protected. Uwe and I were both from film and television, obviously. So I look at it like a family channel. You know, we're moderating these places and we're designing these places for an all audience, when really these younger users are on this platform and they're not being protected. So with Tribela, I want it to be a protected space for the younger users, but interesting and engaging for all audiences. So I think that that's really important. But right now I'm concentrating on the design and the wellness of 13 to 18.
Yeah, and Tribela needs investors, right? So because the situation is like we could, like Natalie could load Tribela up, but then if 1 million people want to sign on, it's just not working, right? It costs money because you need to do the onboarding properly and you need a lot of data. If people actually start communicating, you cannot just say, here are $20,000 and let's see what's happening. That doesn't work. So that is the reason Tribela is actively looking for investors or investments into the company, you know. So that's the thing. I think the design is there, the idea is there, the technology is there, but at the same time, you need to before you go on and you say, okay, now you can all start on Tribela, you need to have everything in place, you know. I mean, otherwise it will, we all know in the internet, if something doesn't work, they're off. Like, you know, like if you go on Tribela and then it's slow, the communication doesn't work, it's buffering, whatever, you know, like that, then you're dead. So we cannot put Tribela into the market without having basically, I think Tribela looks right now for $2 or $3 million to get it ready, you know, that it's there and that people can sign on and moving forward.
It's more the fact that, you know, when I went into the market and showed the prototype, people looked at it as user friction. They said, you know, really social media networks are looked at as they want you to have a network effect and add as many people as fast as possible. But that's where we're seeing a lot of these problems. And the other thing is they're really I had over and over again from big venture capitalist firms saying, nobody cares about safety. And it's just like they don't want to pay for it in the beginning, but really to create a safe space and to create the algorithms that are customizable by all users. These are all things that do cost money. Also the research and development for how do we get engagement without these kind of manipulated tactics. So right now I've self-funded the platform, and to get it to the next level, I'm looking for an investor.
I think this is a really great idea of your social network.
Thank you.
I think it could be really interesting. It has to be interested actually to all parents. It's
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
doing it for kids, exactly, and they have to be interested in it and take a part. I think they should take a part in this project to support it. It's really great. And maybe you could tell us more about it. What's the key benefits of your social network?
I think the key benefit is that it's back to the way social media was, in my view, intended to connect with people. So it's really about community and it's about connection. And it's not so much a social media network where we're just sticking up content for you to consume. It's more of a space for you to authentically connect. And when you're onboarding someone, when you're adding them as your friend, you have a series of things and questions and stuff that you go through and you really connect with them, which this is where a lot of people are like, no, because then you just can't fast swipe all your friends. And it's like, well, you know what? We don't want to consume our friendships so quickly right now. So we have a little bit of things in place where you're really like consciously reaching out and connecting with people. And then through the design, we have ways of it not to be so manipulative and so fast to reshare and so fast to go viral. We've taken more of a slower approach to the way we look at content, the way the feed is designed, the way you have your personal pages and you have your public pages. And one of the big things is the community pages and the business pages. So the first rollout just has the community pages. And this was something that came in the research, is that a lot of people said they love to be on their community pages, but they're not finding that it's safe, or they're getting really sick of these tactics on a like Facebook's platform. And so we've created these kind of new ways for communities to connect. So we have really nice, fun, interactive community pages, as well as verified business pages that will roll out later. And the business pages are also verified because there's a lot of crime that's happening on social media in the business pages where people are getting copycat accounts that look like the real account, then they're buying stuff and getting scammed. This is happening a lot. So we've protected it on the security side of it, on how we're onboarding. Everyone is fully verified when they're coming on the platform to protect against these users. And also we're using advanced AI for video and imagery to create a more safer environment where we're really moderating the content against violence or pornography and things like that. So it's more of a holistic space that way. And we're also rolling out a mentorship program that is different than, instead of influencers, we have mentors on the platform, which is a nice initiative to kind of share and engage information. So we have a lot of tools and stuff that are coming and developing within the platform. But to answer your question, the main thing is I really want to imitate our real world connection and how we show up, and it's spontaneous. Like, you walk down the street and you see different shops. Tribela is supposed to feel spontaneous. It's supposed to feel really like the real world online, and not this kind of fake world where you're constantly seeing these kind of manipulated videos and manipulated content. It's really real life online.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I hope your project will come true. And speaking about Facebook, is it reasonable to compete with Facebook?
Well, I'm not setting out to compete with Facebook all over the world. I think that Facebook did actually some huge damage when they entered into some rural communities without the proper translation. There's incited violence in multiple countries. So I'm not trying to compete with them on world domination at all. What I feel like it could compete with Facebook in a smaller way. Like, I would like to compete with Facebook in Europe, which isn't really small, but I would like to become the primary social network in Europe, in Canada, then we can go outside of that. but I'm not looking for world domination in any way. I'm looking for creating a movement to connect differently and expand it in a more holistic way, not like how Facebook went to the market saying we want to connect the entire world at all cost. I think that looking at it more mindfully, and there's ways to expand mindfully, you know, and thinking of ways of doing that where it makes sense. So I think that there is a way to compete with Facebook. I think that the biggest thing that we need to remind ourselves is that everything we do is essentially a political statement. Everything we do, we have agency over. So everything, every dollar we spend, every moment of the hour that we're spending on a platform, these are all conscious decisions, and we can decide to move it somewhere else. And so there has a tipping point where the harms become so big that it's time to move on. So
yeah, but look, when you see in the US Congress, when Zuckerberg always sits there and gets like attacked by everybody, like people do suicide and all kinds of stuff. But so far, nothing has an impact. You know, you have basically, think about who controls basically the internet, all technology. It's America. It's and I think it's a shame that in Europe is not one social network.
yeah,
You know, I mean, what you have, I mean, TikTok is more or less like a video platform where you just watch videos or post videos. But when it comes to social networking, LinkedIn, Facebook, Reddit, whatever, they're all controlled by the same people. It's like a monopoly worldwide, you know, and they can switch it off. They can switch countries off. They can censor people. They can censor political parties. They can do whatever they want. And they're all from America. And I think it's
men. We need more women.
yeah, you know, and I think it's kind of ridiculous that in Europe, we went to the tech summit in Lisbon. And when you go there, they're all having apps. You know, like everybody develops apps, like the restaurant app, the app where I can get a car, the app where I can rent a bike. Okay, great. But if you say, no, we should compete to Facebook, we should like have a replacement from Europe side. And then everybody, no, that is impossible. It's impossible, you know? And I think in every business is a lot of competition, but not in this. It's kind of crazy that the biggest growing business is all in the hands of the US. Look at ChatGPT or like AI and stuff like this. It's also mostly 95% controlled out of the US. And I think that is for Europe very dangerous to just have nothing to compete with all of this. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's a good point. And how do you see this social network's future 10 years after its launch?
I really see it becoming a hub of community. I really want this place. It's hard to imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years because I really wanted a place where the users, the people that are involved in the community also have a say in how it evolves. So I think that to say where it's going to be in 10 years is I wanted it across Europe, across North America, you know, international. But I also want it a force for good. So that was another thing that I didn't mention is that there's a collective giving initiative where the community has a collective giving initiative that with every new user creates a bigger impact in the world. And I think that to say where it's going to be in 10 years, I don't know, but I hope that the impact of all the members kind of organically creates a movement.
Yeah. If nothing works, we just use it under 4 people. Our Boll family. So we do.
It's gonna work.
We use it as our communication.
It's gonna work. It's gonna be amazing. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you should think positive always, and it's gonna work. And I hope when I actually believe in your project, it's really kind and it's good for children and all people in common, because it's really kind. It's kind of tool to unite people.
Yes.
At our project too, we're trying to unite people together, and I'm glad that we had this conversation. People will know about this wonderful project and they'll listen to this conversation, and I hope they'll support your project. And I wish you really a successful future with your social network.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for the
Everybody can go on tribela.com. So because you see already what it will be there on the website, right? So totally.
Yes, I'll put up the links in description.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. It was nice talking to you. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.